Perfect. Hello everyone. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're looking after yourselves. Welcome to another episode of the Hustle Chronicles, where we dive into the world of entrepreneurship, business, freelancing, and all those fun things. But as you know, we do this through an honest lens. And as any of our avid watchers may know, it has been a year since my own episode. So as I always say, I am now transitioning from being podcast host to podcast guest. I have an amazing host here. Demelza, could we know a bit more about you and what you do first? And then once you've done your introductions, Demelza's going to take control of the episode. And yeah, I'm ready for any questions. She's got a lot of questions. I'm hoping I'm ready to answer all of them. But yeah, Demelza, could we know a bit more about you and what you do first?
Of course. First of all, thank you for having me, Jeffrey.
Yeah,
it's an honor to be featured. My name is Demelza, as Jeffrey said. I've spent a year on the Upgrade Yourself program at Somerset House, doing communications for 2 different businesses, but it just ended this week, so it's pretty sad at the moment, but yeah, I'm grateful to have been part of the Somerset House community. It's been amazing. Outside of work, I do photography, I write as well, and just a human.
Yeah, perfect. No, it's great to hear. But yeah, now this is your episode, so let me know the first question.
Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so first of all, take us through like a summary of the past year then. So like, what have been some of the biggest milestones or like turning points for Pick Up the Mic over the past year?
Yeah, good question. Past year, oof, what has happened? Maybe I should have written notes. So yeah, a few things have happened. So I guess actually first off, I think I may have mentioned it in the last episode, like the last episode, as in like the last time I was doing this. We were in the process of getting like our first interns ever through, like Bruno has a summer internship scheme. So essentially, first-year students can join an organization for a couple of weeks over the summer, learn about a particular like industry, get experience, and yeah. So we did that for the first time ever, which was really cool, and it was really great to have. Especially like one of the 2 interns that we got was he studied sports science, but he like loves photography. He does photography, does sports photography, and he didn't know about like videography, but he applied to be the videographer because he said he wanted to learn and grow. And I was like, cool, like, here's the role, like, take it, have fun with it. And yeah, it was really cool. So shout out Josh, because it was just like cool to see him like grow, and we've kept in touch, and he helps out from time to time still. What else has happened over the last year? We celebrated 4 years, a big 4. Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, that was cool. So last year it was, I also need to, I really realized only like when the event happened that last year we called our 3-year event the Big Broadcast, and this year we called it the Big 4. So year 5 won't have the big anything, but let's see how it goes. But yeah, no, so we celebrated 4 years of Pick Up the Mic, which was incredible. And it was really great to just be like, I guess, to see all these different people that we've met, so whether it's through the podcast, whether it's friends, whether it's family, whether it's people through work, we all just came together and celebrated 4 years. And yeah, the big difference was that we specifically said, like, we didn't want it to be, so for the 3rd year, it was like a live podcast of like learning about how Pick Up the Mic started, favorite episodes, fun parts of the journey, stuff like that. And then this year I was like, oh no, we want to like speak about people who've been in our community, who's done incredible stuff, and we want to like highlight them, because we were just like, there are certain people, even just over the last year, that we don't always like, we haven't like promoted or like always spoken about when we talk about Pick Up the Mic. So I was just like, oh yeah, we're really cool to like spotlight these people. So there were 16 individuals. If I remember, I'll put up a nice fancy picture of the 16. But yeah, these 16 individuals, like, we awarded them different things based on the work that they do. Some of it related to like Pick Up the Mic theme stuff. So we have this thing for our main podcast, or like our first podcast, called the Student Guide, which is called MC of the Month. So every episode we give an organizational individual who's doing incredible work. Yeah, so we spun that and said MC of the Year. So it was like an organization that we felt like embodied the work that Pick Up the Mic does, our values, our mission. And then some of them were just like relevant to other people's, like what they sort of like specialize in. So like for certain people who did like stuff on sustainability, for certain people who did stuff on like mental health and well-being. So yeah, it was really incredible to like celebrate that with people. And then, yeah, I think one, because I like to do things in threes. So I think one final thing I would say, wow, yeah, it's just one of those ones where it's just like, what has happened over the last year?
Flies by.
Yeah, honestly. And then you're just like, and I think that's like people have been saying like, oh, actually I do. Oh, wow, I don't know what. Yeah. So we announced it at our 4-year event, and we essentially are launching this initiative called Fund and Flourish Lab. And what's funny is I was actually going to post a video when I spoke about it in a podcast episode, like maybe a month ago, and I pre-recorded it and I was going to release this video. That video has kind of become outdated because we've completely changed what we're doing. So it's still the same thing. So it's supposed to be this like creative lab for creatives, young professionals and entrepreneurs who want to like either have a space to grow, develop, try new things. You don't have to be someone who wants to launch a business idea, even if it was just like, oh yeah, I want to like get into poetry, or I want to, you know, do photography, or like improve a skill. That was the whole point. But yeah, so it starts out as like a 3-month long program, and then the whole like deal with the initiative is then supposed to move to being that essentially once you've done the first 3 months, each month has this particular theme. And then once you do the first 3 months, we basically are now giving people the option like, okay, well, if you feel like you want to stay on for another 3 months, okay, cool. You can stay on. It won't necessarily be as structured as the first 3, but it will be an option for you to like say, hey Jeffrey, you know what? Actually, it was really great to be a part of this space. I loved being like working with other people and meeting other people. Could I stay on and like continue working on my ideas? So we give people the option to stay on for another 3 months, and they can still get access to the things that sort of they had. So like mentors or peer mentors, working within that group. We're working on an alumni sort of network, so people can still keep in touch and work together. But yeah, essentially the whole idea is that we know that like, well, one, there's like data that shows like essentially like funding is hard, especially if you're in the creative industries. But also this whole idea of like sometimes ideas like spark when you just have chats with people in a space, and you don't have to, and you don't need to be in like a official like, I don't know, working environment. Sometimes it could just be like you have coffee with someone and then you're like, oh, well, why didn't you try like talking to someone, like talking to this person, or, you know, this actor runs this initiative that I think would be really good for the work that you do. Why don't you get in touch with them and see if there's any way to collaborate? So I think, those would be like the big 3 things that we've done over the last year.
Yeah, super cool stuff.
Thank you very much.
I must say that event, I attended the 4-year anniversary. That was really, really nice.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, to see people like be appreciated. I feel like they really loved it. I could tell.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, so then moving on then. What's something you and your team have accomplished this year that surprised you? Is there anything?
Good question.
Something unexpected.
This year, unexpected. Maybe like I mean the award was given to me, but it's like all the stuff I do pick up on like is not just me. But I think it was probably and this was like one that I got awarded Big Issue Changemaker of 2025, which was great. So for media and I think it was media and campaigns. So the work that I do pick up the mic, I was like a part of their change makers that they had been selected. That was really cool. But like it was one of those things that was very much like unexpected. So I think I heard about it and then like some people said like, oh, like maybe you should like either put in an application or you should tell people to. And I was like, cool, like I'll do it. I'll see what happens. And then essentially I didn't hear anything for a while, and I was like, okay, so clearly I must not have got it. Someone else must have. And then it was actually, funnily enough, someone who was on the podcast that we met like in January, and we recorded their episode. Like a few weeks later, they were just like, oh yeah, you know, like congrats on the Big Issue thing. I forgot to tell you. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she was just like, I was like shortlisted for a different category, and you know, I saw that you were too, and I was like, where did you see this list? Like, I didn't get any emails or anything. But yeah, that was like a big surprise because that was like really cool. It was like spotlighted like the work that we do. But yeah, it's one of those things where I always tell people, and like my advice is like, if you want to apply for like an award for funding, stuff like that, sometimes you just have to put the idea out there and you don't have to worry about like, oh, it needs to be perfect. Or even if like with that thing, I was thinking, oh, do I need to like do a campaign? Do I need to like really like push this on social media? And I think all I just did was like, I just told people that I know, and I was just like, look, like I'd love if you could like nominate me for this. This was really cool. So that was like definitely something that like came out of the blue.
Well, definitely well deserved.
Thank you.
I think I voted for you actually.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so then over the past 12 months, Pick Up the Mic has increased engagement with community organizations, mainly like Spotify and Eric. So how have these collaborations influenced your approach to content creation? Has it influenced?
Yeah, I think Eric, to be honest, also could have been a surprise. So that started out from I reached out to Eric via email and was just like, hey, look, like I love what you guys do. Would love to have you on the podcast to just like interview you and just learn about your journey. And then one of the founders of Eric, called Sam, she just like said, oh, we love what you do. Like, let's get onto a call and chat. So we did. And I was thinking, okay, you know, my long-term strategy was like, I'd love to be on the Eric app. But I was just like, you know, they're a big organization. They've got a big audience. They probably would want to like learn about us first, do a bit of research, get to know us. And then, you know, later on in the year, we'd be on the app. And then they were just like, so I spoke to Sam and she was like, no, we really love what you do. We checked your website, seen your content. She was just like, would you love to like come on board and like post, like have a business profile on there and like actually be able to post like content, events, all of this stuff. And I was like, I'd love to. That'd be really cool. And that was like a complete surprise. And then even like earlier this year, like all the businesses on there were invited to like come and speak as a part of the National Careers Week. So each day from the Eric team, they were interviewing people. So I think the Monday was like very generic, like it was like just careers as a whole, and then each of the other days was like a specific industry. So I think it was like so the one I did was I think radio, podcasts, and PR maybe or something, or radio, podcasts, and media I think. But yeah, I was interviewed for like 15 minutes just on my journey to Pick Up the Mic and like how Pick Up the Mic supports people, where can young people find about advice in the creative industries. But yeah, I think that, like you said with the question, it's really important because that showed us, I guess one, it was nice to like try something new. Like we had done like a few blog posts on our website, but it wasn't like, we were just like, we mainly do video content. Video content is what drives us, or like what drives our audience. We see the most engagement with it. So we were just like, okay, cool. We'll just be focusing on like YouTube content. But it's been really cool to see like some of the other blogs we've done. So we did a blog on like, what to do once you've graduated university, what are the options. We did ones on like interview, or like we're about to release one on like interview advice. We did one on like, okay, so you want to start a podcast, how do you do it? What are the things to be aware of? Do you know that like each podcast has it's this thing called a RSS feed, which means that it's like almost like your unique number as a podcast. So if I go on, if someone wanted to set up a podcast and call it Pick Up the Mic, because of my RSS feed, they couldn't. I've spoken about this story many times, but that literally was what happened with Pick Up the Mic. So we set up our podcast page, I think in February 2021. We hadn't recorded anything yet, but I was like, cool, let's just like set all of this stuff up. So when we're ready to go, we just go. Then it turned out someone in America wanted to call their podcast Pick Up the Mic. They couldn't. So then they called theirs Pick Up the Mic podcast to separate it from us. And then it became super confusing because we were both releasing content at the same time. So people were just like, oh, is this podcast you, or is this another podcast that you guys own? And we were just like, no, that's not ours. So yeah, that led to like us having to figure out like how can we differentiate and working on like SEO or like search engine optimization and stuff like that. So yeah, that was really like what was cool about the Eric app. It was like tapping into like a new audience and new like experience. And even like with the events that we do, it was great because especially, so I think, yeah, maybe from like March last year. So even maybe just before this episode had been recorded, was when we started to put like our first couple of events on there. But it was really cool because like, it was like in the events that we were doing, like there were people that had never, like they didn't know, I don't know, like let's say we did an event at Somerset House. They didn't come along because they knew, like they were from Somerset House, so they knew about, like they literally just found us on Eric, which was really cool. With Spotify, I think, so we're a part of, or like anyone who uploads podcasts is a part of their, they've got like a Spotify for podcasters page. And I think for us, it's been really cool because we get to like, I guess, see the analytics a bit more and like understand like, okay, where, who's our audience? What is their age range? Like what's been in like what's good about like where do we see like the peaks and troughs in our content. So what can we do to like, you know, whether it's per episode or even per season. So the Student Guide podcast, that is the only one that's on like Spotify and like other listening platforms, but it's also on YouTube. So we also just like, okay, can we compare analytics to different platforms to see like, okay, so, you know, if we see that we've got higher viewership on YouTube than Spotify, what does that mean? Does that mean that like people prefer to watch this podcast more? And now that Spotify's added that you can actually like upload video podcasts to Spotify, we were just like, well, now should we be focusing on like uploading video podcasts to Spotify to encourage people to come? We were just like, should we be posting more teasers to tease upcoming episodes or post like short sound bites? So I think it's given like being on Spotify has given us a lot of like especially through the podcasters one, it's given us a lot of like research and tools. But I think also it's been really interesting to see like the different episodes that like each year, like we've been on Spotify as a part of like, so obviously as an audience member, Spotify gives you a Spotify Wrapped where it's like music and podcasts you've listened to. But as creators, so both of you are a music creator and if you do podcasting, it does the same thing. And I think for us, it's been really cool because we see like, one, we have people like outside of the UK listening to our stuff, which is really cool. But then also it's really like, not weird in a bad way, but just like really random to see like the episodes that do well each year. So I think in 2023, the one that got really high was one that we did on like things that you do, like things no one told. So we have a podcast called So No One Told You. And the whole idea is it's like things no one told you about a particular topic. So the one that was like really, or like the podcast episode of Spotify that got the most listens was No One Told You about like what to do after graduation. And that was really interesting because we were just like, oh, it seems that like a lot of people are unaware of like what's available to them once they graduate and like what opportunities they should be trying, what should they like, where areas they should be going into, stuff like that. And then last year was a close friend of the podcast, Shania, so shout out to you, Shania. She did an episode like ages ago on her journey and like getting into media and like graduating, and she runs her own podcast. So it was really interesting to see that last year her episode did really well. And like I think like to end it, it was just really cool to see that content that even though it didn't come out that year was still doing really well, and like those two episodes were the most listened to episodes on their respect like each year that they came out, or each year they did Spotify Wrap. So it was really interesting to see that even sometimes like your older content can come back and like still like get loads of views or get like still do really well, which is really cool. That
sounds really cool. Like both of those really lead into great things.
Yeah Thank you.
Okay. And then, so with Pick Up the Mic's like expansion of like product, podcasts and events and partnerships, so on, has your leadership style or your vision at all evolved with any of this?
Yeah.
Has it changed?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think like for like, I guess leadership style, I think it's like the more that we've expanded through like these internship schemes that we've been a part of, it's given me sort of like more of an idea of like both, I guess, the type of business owner, but also like manager, because ultimately at the end of the day, like because there's no intermediate manager between like the team and me, I'm directly managing these people too. So I think it's given me like ideas on like what management styles work. It also encouraged me to like think about like not everyone works in the same way. So like for example, the interns that we had last year, the videographer one, he very much was like, okay, cool, give me a task. I don't need you to like continually check on me. Just give me a task. If I'm stuck, if I've got questions, I'll come up and ask you. But he was just like, give me the work to do. I'll put my head down. I'll do it. I'll let you know if I've got questions. The podcast production assistant that we had was different. They were just like, oh no, I'd love to like work through some of this with you to begin with. And then once I get to a stage where I feel more comfortable, I will then like come back, like I'll then start to do it myself. So I think it's like interesting to see different people's work styles, because then it makes you aware that like you have to take that into account when you're giving people work. And you know, we're in a stage where literally we've just recruited like as a part of the internship scheme, so like we've re-recruited for 2 new interns, and it's the same thing. So when it comes to like working with them, I'm going to need to figure out how do they work best, how do they like take not necessarily take feedback, but like how to give them feedback in a constructive way, things like that. How do I sort of gauge what level they're at? Because also with this internship scheme, as I mentioned, they're all first year students. So for a lot of them, this might be the first time they've ever worked. Even if it's like a small business, it's the first time that they've had like a proper job. So it's always about like, okay, I'm thinking, you're only here for 3 months. How can we ensure that those 3 months are like beneficial to you? So it's not that like at the end of it, you're just like, I haven't actually either learned anything, I haven't like got something really good for my CV or cover letter and things like that. And I would say with my vision, I think, so even like now, like I tell people, like I joke that every year, like Pick Up the Mic's almost like changed what it is. So like it started out as just being one podcast, then we were a podcast with additional content, then we became a podcast network, and now I say like we do more than podcasting because we've got like workshops that we do, we've got the services of our videography, photography, and interviewing. We do sometimes mentoring. So for me, I almost see it as like Pick Up the Mic's now become like a creative platform, and it's like expanded from just being that like, oh yeah, podcast is our main deliverable and like this other stuff is like extra stuff. It's like, no, actually like like our mission of like wanting to like either share resources or like support services for young people, or even if it's just like spotlighting individuals or businesses doing incredible work, sometimes we'll do that through the events that we do, or like through bringing them onto, sort of sometimes do stuff like this, like host podcasts. We have something called Let's Empower, which is our every Women's History Month in March and Black History Month in October. We do a panel discussion or like a round table, and we basically like bring together this like group of people, and usually like people get surprised, but like the only ones of those, well, the Women's History one, I don't get involved because it's Women's History Month, I don't need to be there, but the Black History Month one, the only one I was ever involved in was the first one, and that was because it was like, I was just like, I was thinking, that was the only one I was involved in to start with. But now I just see it as an opportunity that, no, like, there's really cool businesses or there's really cool people that I've either met through work, through the podcast, through just, like, general interactions. So I'm just like, let's give them an opportunity to, like, spotlight themselves. So if I think, actually this person makes a great host, I'll be like, could you host the episode? If I know this person has a cool business or they have a cool practice that they do, I might be like, oh, cool, like, would you like to be one of the panelists for it? Because I think it'd be really cool for people to know about the work that you do. So yeah, I think I see that the vision has expanded to like not limit ourselves to being like just a podcast, but like allowing all the work that we do to sort of like bring back to this vision of what we're trying to achieve.
That sounds really nice. Like you're really centering people more through your endeavors.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and then so has your approach or outlook on growth changed as well? Or has that kind of stayed the same?
No, I'd definitely say it's changed. I think it's one of the things that I talked to my manager about. And I think especially because my other job is literally supporting businesses. It's one of those things of like reminding yourself, like, I guess, like whether it's like recognition in the sense of like awards or funding or stuff like that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not necessarily like growing and successful as a business. So like with my part-time, with my other job outside of Pick Up the Mic, there's this thing that we do where we award businesses after they've finished on the program a pot of funding to sort of showcase their growth. And I think the really cool thing with that is like even through discussions where we talk about like, okay, well, what does growth mean to us to award someone to say like, we think you've grown the most, they were just like, no, we don't necessarily need to see that your revenue has like increased or, maybe you've won loads of like big industry awards. They were just like, no, growth could even literally just be you've been able to like tap into another market. It could be that you've actually been able to move to doing your job. You're like focusing on your business like full time instead of part time. And it's all about like sort of seeing that like essentially your smaller achievements are leading to that growth. So to me, I would say like, whereas growth maybe before might have been focused on like making sure that Pick Up the Mic was always like bringing in money or was like winning all of these awards, it's like, no, like whether it's like you said, like through spotlighting others, whether it's through sort of like ensuring that the quality of our work is like at its best, whether it's even just like clarifying like and making it clear like what we do and like our branding and stuff like that. and like seeing like small things. So it might be like, I don't know, someone on messages, pick up the mic or LinkedIn or whatever. It says like, oh, hey, like I never knew about you guys. Like your content's so cool. Like, thanks for sharing this video. Whether it's, I don't know, like someone, like a guest that I reach out to and say, hey, look, like, do you want to be on the podcast? And maybe I've like updated our website or our social media page and like made it a bit more, like reshaped like the way it looks. And people saying like, wow, your website looks so cool and all of this stuff. Like, it's stuff like that, like smaller, taking into account that like smaller things of like growth are still growth.
For sure. Yeah. It's a great message overall. Like,
thank you.
Just small growth is still growth, right?
Yeah.
And I guess also like businesses don't really. I think it was you who told me this, that a lot of businesses don't even make the like 3-4 year mark. So yeah, it's quite hard out here.
Yeah.
I guess that leads me on to the next question then. So like, what challenges have you faced, or have you and your team faced over the past year? And like, what strategies help you stay afloat and focused, I guess?
I think, like we sort of like mentioned, like funding is tough, especially like not just given like what's happened with like policies changing or stuff like that, but funding as a whole has always been tough. It's tougher now than it's. I don't know if it's tougher now than it's been before, but it feels like it at least. So I think for us it was like, especially probably around August and September last year. The biggest thing that we noticed was like a lot of the sort of like paid opportunities that we had received like from, I guess, 2023 into 2024, a lot of them we were like told, and leading into this sort of financial or like last financial year, we were just like, yeah, no, unfortunately, we don't have funding for that. And like, especially because like we work a lot sometimes with like universities and stuff, due to like their financial situation, they were just like, no, unfortunately, like we can't like pay you to do X, Y, and Z. So I think, like that's probably been like one of the biggest challenges is like ensuring that we keep that like paid work coming in. But I think it's I would say like the thing that's helped us to like, I guess, overcome that challenge is, funnily enough, the partner of the program that I support, he like recommended, like he's very much big, and like other people that I work with are also, that like chasing funding isn't a good thing, because a lot of people say that essentially if you always chase funding, like there are organizations that get like, I don't know, let's say like 100,000 funding for their like project, but then it can be very difficult because then you're like dependent on the funding to like keep running your like business or your program. But he was saying like figure out like your sales strategy. So he said like it's not that for any of the work he does, he's not like also looking for potential funding he could apply for, but he was just like, no, I've focused on like developing a really good sales strategy. So now if I reach out to other people, it's like cool, I've got the business side, like this is the project or business that I want to do with you guys. This is how it would benefit you. This is how it would benefit me. And then he just focuses on ensuring that like that sales strategy is like sorted out to like, it's like as crisp as can be. So then he can just send loads of emails. He can like book loads of meetings. And I think that that's one of the things that like is tough. It's tough to like come up with even like, for example, like with the Fund and Flourish Lab, like we're looking for that to get funded, or like a sponsored or something, like get some sort of support for it. And yeah, essentially it's like that's one of the things that I'm now going to have to think about is like, how do I reach out to these organizations and say like, hey, look, this is how it's going to benefit you. This is how it would benefit us. But yeah, I think it's sometimes a lot of people sometimes forget, like, I guess what the benefit that they could give to this organization. So you might clearly say like, let's say, like you said, like if I reach out to Spotify and I say, hey, Spotify, like I'd love for you to like sponsor Pick Up the Mic or sponsor a Pick Up the Mic podcast, or sponsor the Fund and Flourish Lab, or like do something. And they might be like, okay, cool. Well, it's clear what we could offer you. It could be money. It could be access to our podcast studios, stuff like this, like marketing, whatever. But then it's also like, I need to be clear on like what I can offer Spotify and like why I'm the best to offer it. And yeah, sometimes it's just like, it's just figuring out like what can you offer to someone that you know that like they might not necessarily get. So I think, I don't remember who spoke about it, but like someone was saying like for the videography stuff that we do at Pick Up the Mic, sometimes it's cheaper to pay us to do it because, we can maybe get a quick turnover, or we can do like short form and long form content as well as like Instagram Reels and TikToks. Whereas like someone for a marketing team might have to like, I don't know, like they have to, if they don't have a videographer, they'll have to train someone on the team to be a videographer, or they'll have to hire one, which is a long hiring process. Even if they do hire one, then it's very much dependent on like the videographer's availability if the team isn't that big. So they were saying like, reach out to organizations and say that if you know that like you can turn over a video, like let's say I go to an event, I record 2 hours worth of footage, and I can get we can get all of that footage over to the person, I don't know, within like a week, or like let's say max a week, and we can maybe do like 2 renditions of it and say like we won't charge you for extra, but it will cost you, I don't know, let's say like £400. Then that would like that is you basically have to just like argue why that's better than that, which again I would say is a challenge. It's like sometimes challenging to think like how can you like push. It's like you don't want to push away like potential like sponsors or funders, but you also then don't want to like undersell yourself for your services, which is always like a difficult thing to balance. And even like that's one of the, I guess, like leads to challenge number 3, which is especially when you're like selling a product or service. I think for a product it's at least in my opinion, it might be a bit easier, but like for a service, it can be hard to like figure out what is your price. And I think especially like if you're not necessarily starting out, but let's say you start off like you want to have like examples of your work. So you might do a lot of it for free. Maybe you're working with friends or friends of friends, or maybe you're just reaching out to people and saying like, hey, I can do it for free. Then it's really cool because like you get this like wide portfolio that shows that you've like worked with loads of different organizations. And for us, that was really cool because now we can show like the different styles of videos we've produced and how, like the different ways we've done it. So maybe it's like both like the interviewer and the interviewee are on camera. Maybe they're both not. Maybe there are interviews. Maybe there aren't. And it's like, okay, so now that we've got that, that's great. But then we want to get paid work for that. So then it's about how do we like figure out a way to, sell these services. But then also it's like, how do we ensure that if we are selling it, it's like we're charging the right amount? Because I think the difficulty sometimes is figuring out like how much do you charge. Like let's say you work for a non-for-profit, or you want to do a non-for-profit reaches out, they want you to do videography stuff for you. Now you might be like, okay, well, I'd like to make as much money from this as possible, but they might tell you, actually, we've got a really small budget, and we can only afford to pay you maybe X amount. Or maybe you're just like, actually, I want to focus on like only supporting like small businesses. That's great. You're giving back to your, you might be a small business owner yourself. You'll be giving back. That's great. But then if you're doing it yourself, you need to make sure that like you're getting paid for your like time and services. You also have to think about like if you're traveling there, if it's not nearby, like that's another cost that's being added, stuff like that. So it's almost like how much do you charge others without sort of like losing, because I think no one likes to lose work, but then it's also like how do you not undersell your services? So that was one of the things we had to think about, and just be like, okay, we feel like we may be charging too little for some of the jobs that we're doing, and we were just like, yeah, we took it because maybe we were just like money's money, But now we're just like, actually, let's bear in mind that like we've got a wide repertoire of like showcases our work. We're not necessarily like novices or like people who don't know how to use video editing software. Like some of these people studied it for their degree. So it's almost like, okay, how do we ensure that like we say this is actually the amount of money that we think our services is worth? And like even like just sometimes that just comes from like talking to people. So I spoke to someone who's a videographer, and she just said basically like, hey, the way that she does it is she basically just turns around and says, okay, what's your budget for my service? Like, if I was to do this for you, how much would you be able to pay me? And then they might be like, okay, cool, like, we can pay you this amount. And she'll be like, okay, well, that's actually quite a lot lower than what I usually charge, which means that I won't necessarily give you the full extent of like what I would do, but I might be able to do like a short, like if your event is 4 hours, I'll record for 2 hours. I'll also do interviews alongside of that. And then I'll make you one long video and one short video. And then unfortunately, if you want me to make edits or stuff, that will cost you a bit extra. But so it's always about like that. But yeah, I would say those are probably like the 3 challenges that we sort of like had to deal with to pick up the mic.
And I guess challenges are like inevitable, I guess, as well. It's just like handling them is a lot of work, I guess, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like I always see you with a smile on your face, to be fair. So I was going to ask, do you ever get burnt out, like, with all, like, the work that you put in?
Yeah.
And how do you deal with being burnt out, or if you ever get burnt out?
100% I do. I think definitely that was one of the things over the last year that, like, I learned, not necessarily learning that I get burnt out, but learning that the lesson that I took was that you don't have to do everything, or you don't have to be at everything. Yeah. So even like this year, there were like times when like, as a team, we were asked to do like videography stuff. And usually I might be the one to go, and I might be like, okay, cool, I'll go with like another team member, or like if there's 2 team members going, I'll go with them to like support them, all of this stuff. And then I was just like, well, look, like I'm going to be honest, if I've had like a busy week at work, or even if let's say I've done a pod, like let's say it's a week like this week, so maybe work's been busy, I have podcast recordings the day before, maybe I've got something else, maybe it's a personal thing, maybe it's a family thing, whatever, I've got all this stuff, and then there's another recording. I just realized that like I don't have to do everything. So if I've got people on the team that are like, hey, I'm happy to like record stuff, I don't need someone to be with me, like based on what they've asked, like this would be super easy to do. And I'd be like, okay, cool, like go ahead, like I'll give you the person's number, go ahead, chat to them, like just let me know, like if there's any serious issues, give me a call. But like go ahead and do it, like I trust you, like stuff like that. And I think it's that, like you have to be in a space where you're like okay to delegate. And funnily enough, literally like what we were talking before, like sometimes you just got to go with the flow. So as I mentioned, like we're using 3 cameras. As I mentioned, 2 of these cameras, I can't see if they're recording. I'm praying that they are. But it's one of those things where like if it wasn't recording, then I'm just like, okay, cool. I've just got to accept that and just work with what I've got. Yeah. And yeah, it's just about like delegation. So it might be, you might turn around and say, if you're like running a business, you might be like, okay, cool. We've been asked to, I don't know, maybe record a video at one event, and it's the same day as like a talk. You've been asked to host a workshop for something. And then you might say, actually, you know what? I know that the talk I've, as an individual, have been asked, so this is something I can't just like get out of. But then you might say, actually, you know what? This other person, the like service that we need to provide, or the product that we might need to give out at this event, someone else can do. So you might turn around and say, actually, yeah, you can do this. I trust you. Like, if there's any issues, let me know. And then I guess the final thing is, even like in those circumstances, like sometimes I'll just tell the team like, hey, like I'll be here at the event anyways, but like I'm just going to be here as an attendee. So just like, I want to give you guys a space to like operate. So I'm not micromanaging you. Like you guys do your own thing. So even like, funny enough, the people who did and I probably won't make it appear, I'll add a link to the description, but like for our 4-year event video, a lot of like people might think, oh, Jeffrey led on the direction of that and said like what needs to be recorded. I literally just told the 2 interns that we had who did it, I was just like, hey, look, like just record the video. Like I want you to take control, ask whatever questions you want, interview people, whichever style you think is best, cut up the video, whatever you think is good, send it over to me, let me know. Like I'll let you know my thoughts. If I think it's like needs to be improved, I'll let you know. But yeah, sometimes it's just that. It's like letting people have creative control, and you'll be surprised that like sometimes it'll like exceed your expectation or look like amazing or like, and sometimes it's like if I was directly in control, if I was like holding everything and being like, no, it needs to be done my way or I need to be the only one to do it, then that's when you then realize that like actually no, like you're sort of like limiting your work and like limiting also your team's ability to work as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. I didn't think you would say like letting go control, but yeah.
No, it's true. You'll be surprised. Like the more you let go, the like easier things will get, especially with like business stuff. Because I don't remember if it was on the podcast or like a video that I saw, but like essentially like someone was saying, you're not like, I'm not a marketing expert. I'm also not a I don't know, like I'm not an engineer, I'm not a sound engineer, all of this stuff, but I might find someone who is. And it's like, I don't have to do everything to pick up the mic because I have a team that support me, that have experience in different things. So for me, it's just like remembering you don't have to do everything, but you can like let others who have expertise or like experience or like knowledge in the area to lead on those areas. So it's not just like, oh, you know, if we market it, we have to market the episode like Jeffrey's way, or if we, record stuff, it has to be done Jeffrey's way. It's like, no, like, like I tell people on the team, like, you might know a better way to record than I do. Even like when it comes to editing, I might be like, oh, hey, I know this like quick tool or this like software that can do it really fast. But you might say, actually, you know what? I know a better tool that could do it and it's a lot cheaper. And I might be like, actually, didn't know this. Let's try your software and see if it works. So yeah, sometimes it's just that. It's just like, knowing that you don't have to be an expert in everything, but leaning on like the others around you to support you.
Yeah. That's really nice.
Thank you.
Okay, and then, so, I mean, with all the amazing things that you're doing and all the people that are benefiting from your service and things, I'm sure you get great feedback all the time. So did you hear any good feedback this year that stuck with you, or negative, I guess, as well?
Yeah.
Just any feedback that stuck?
Yeah, I think one would be, I think a few. So one would definitely be, so we did so as a part of our Let's Empower thing for Women's History Month last year, we brought together again like this panel, and it was like a small I wouldn't say curated, but it was a small space because we couldn't have too many people. And then what was really interesting was one of the attendees, like I didn't know her. She just found the event on Eric. And then what was really cool was I met one of the panelists like much later last year. And then I was just like, cool, how was the panel discussion? How did it go? How do you think it went? And she was like, yeah, it was great, really enjoyed it. And she said, oh, I don't know if I told you, but like one of the people that attended, we had a position on our company, and like basically she applied, she got it, and it's been like great working with her. I think for me, it's like really cool to see that like, I guess, connections happening through the space that we created. Yeah. And like it wasn't like I introduced them or I told the person, hey, if you're looking for roles, this is like, I literally just like brought this panelist, put out this event, and those two like just naturally found each other and spoke. So I think, definitely that would be one of the like great feedbacks that we've received. I think also as well, I think to be fair, so like each time we've done like the 4-year or like the celebration event, it's been really great to see how it, even like when I was looking at the photos, like to see how it's changed. So like the first time, like when we celebrated 1 year, it was literally just, I don't even remember if we celebrated a year, to be fair. But the first one I remember at least, it was literally just me and my three other people on the team that were helping to host. Then it moved up to then just being a few more of us. Then last year, when we celebrated 3 years, was the first time it was like a big event that we did. And then this year again was like a big event. So I think for me, it's also been great to like see how the event has like grown, but also how like the attendees have changed. So it's now not just like friends and family. It's like what friends from work, like family, like friends outside of work as well, but also it's like people that maybe I've only known them through doing Pick Up the Mic. It's people that maybe have like I think a thing that like, I guess this would also be another great feedback is like, so for the 4-year event, we post about it on social media, post about it on LinkedIn, and then So this person was there. She came really early, and I just spoke to her, and I was like, "Hey, like, thanks for coming. Like, how did you find out about the event?" Because we were trying to think about like where's the best place to put our events, and she was just like, "Oh, I found about it on LinkedIn." I was like, "Oh, cool. Like, what do you do? Like, is the creative industry somewhere you work? Is something you're passionate about?" And she was just like, "Oh yeah, I work for BAFTA." Yeah, I saw your event on LinkedIn and thought I'd come along, and I was like, oh wow, like this is very random. And then when we did like the awards giving and like she learned more about Pick Up the Mic through the talks and all of that, she's like, yeah. So literally before she left, she was just like, yeah, thank you so much. Like this is really great. We should keep in touch. I'd love to like see how we could work together and connect and all this. And I was very much surprised because I was like, this is like very random. Like I've also been trying to figure out how Pick Up the Mic could work with BAFTA for ages.
Oh wow!
So I think sometimes it's just that. It's just like you'll never know. Like sometimes like how through your work like people just find out about it. But it's always about being like never feel like you have to like undersell like hide your work. So I know like sometimes people say they don't like LinkedIn because it seems very much like I'm always posting about the best things in my life or like my business is succeeding. But I tell people like, no, like just post stuff, whether it's like videos, a picture with text, like just text, like post stuff on LinkedIn because especially I think on LinkedIn you can set up you don't have to pay for this one, but you can set up your profile to be, what is it? I think it's like they've got a creator option. So basically you can set up that your profile, like your post will naturally go to people outside of your audience. And I think personally I like it because there are people that have like reached out or sent connections because they've seen like the work that we do. Or sometimes it's like people will see they'll see their friend who was on a pick. So that's also happened quite a bit. We've seen Pick Up the Mic people come on the podcast and then someone else from Pick Up, like who was on the podcast, someone who's a friend, someone who's on the podcast will reach out and be like, I saw this podcast episode. I love what you do. Love to come on. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool to see that like connection between like different audio, like different communities and like seeing what the work that we do. And I think, yeah, the final thing would probably be, which funnily enough, I should have mentioned as an update, is now like, so we've had a few businesses, at least over the last year, I would say, but maybe the last 2 years that we've like supported or like we've met through Pick Up the Mic and we've worked together quite a bit. And yeah, we've at least there's a third one that I won't announce just yet, but we've had 2 community partners. So one is System. So they were our MC of the year, but they support women in STEM and like create spaces for women in STEM to like come and speak and work, like find out about their work. And literally, to this day, I don't really, like they'll probably come on the podcast again at some point, but like I don't really remember how we ended up talking. I think either I DM'd them or they DM'd me. They had an event, so I was like, cool, I'll come along. Like they were celebrating a year of their like of System. And I was like, cool, I'll come along. I came along, it was good. It was like one of those things where like I thought I wouldn't know anyone, and then it turned out like a friend of the podcast was there. But yeah, I was literally like, for most of their events, I'm usually the only guy there. So for the first time attending, I was like, this is going to be super awkward. But everyone there was super friendly. The event was really fun. And then, yeah, we just kept in touch. And then we just continued working together. So like sometimes, so I've done a lot of their like videography and like photography and stuff, or we as a team have. And then, yeah, just literally got to a point this year where I was like, look, like we've worked together a lot. I'm not planning to not work with you guys in the future. Why don't we just agree that like we're community partners to each other? Because I was like, you guys do incredible work. You guys have an incredible network. I know we do too. I'd love to put you guys, like, I'd love for this to be like a formalized way of celebrating this connection. And then the second one, they're currently rebranding. So I'll say the business name, but by the time this episode comes out, it could have completely changed. But there's this organization, and she ran the vision boarding session at the 4-year event. So if you were there, you may know her. But Elise, she runs this thing called the Quarter Life Hub. And I say it's like amazing because it's an initiative to like bring like people in their 20s and 30s who don't know necessarily what they want to do next, or maybe they want a space to just relax and chill, to come together and work together. But for me, I really like love to have I brought Elise onto the podcast, and then she was talking about her experience as a UX researcher, like a user experience researcher. And then I said that what was really cool is like, so we kept in touch ever since. She was on, funnily enough, the Women's History Month panel last year. We've kept in touch and like been working together since. There was one event that literally I was doing videography and her boyfriend were both there. And then I was just like, they said like, do you need help? And I was like, if you guys want to be involved in the video and like recording, I'm more than happy to, and they did, and they've been really supportive. And then I was just like, we've worked a lot together. I've done interviews at her events. I've created content for her. So I was just like, at least like, why don't we find a way to like make this official? Like the work that you're doing is great. We're just waiting for her rebrand to finish, but that will also be announced. But again, it's just like, I think sometimes you'll like, I guess like a key message for everyone is like, sometimes you'll be surprised that like, the collaboration that happens. And like for the work that I've done for them, it's not necessarily like Elise or System have like paid me to do it or like paid for the services that we provide. But I've also said like, I don't like, that's okay, because I know they don't have it in their budget to pay me for it. And I'm just like, cool, if, there's no budget at all for your event. I also do events. I also know how like tight budgets can be. I'm just like, cool, like let me just work with you guys to like get this, like to create this. And it's been really great because now even like for us, when we were trying to like build up our profile and showcase the different like bits of content we've done and the videography that we can do, it's been great to have their different events to showcase because we've shown in different styles how we've been able to do that work. So yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Okay, and then so with all these like collaborations and things happening unexpectedly, is your business today what you imagined it would be like a year ago?
Definitely not. Fund and Flourish Lab didn't it was a idea that I thought would be like cool, and it only came like literally in November from just like talking to someone. But yeah, even like with the Fund and Flourish Lab, like that. I literally just was on a call with Elise just talking about like YouTube stuff, and then I told her about it and she was just like, oh yeah, this sounds really cool, like I want to get involved and help you with it. But yeah, no, I would say definitely not. I think even like this whole rebranding of not just being a podcast network, but like a creative social impact platform, or like whatever the proper word is for that, I'll have it so the spiel will be good. But yeah, I think for that, it's just like, it's been really like, not random, but I've enjoyed the like not having a strict structure to what Pick Up the Mic could be, because and I think that's one of the things that I've like been telling people like through my work, that like through my workplace, like that's what they should do when it comes to their business as well. Because I think sometimes, especially with funding things, and like I give the example of like last year I was I think it was last year I was shortlisted for like the Black Tech Achievement Awards for, I think it was like Young Founder or Rising Star, something like that. It's just for like people, I think 20 under 30 that like were doing stuff within the tech industry. And I tell people I was very surprised by that, because one, I say that like, honestly, Pick Up the Mic, yes, we're using tech here. Like, yes, there's tech involved with the podcast production. We use AI tools as well to help us like do all these cuts and edits. So when you see all these different cameras, like all these different cuts, that is literally AI helping us to do that. But yeah, I tell people like I'm very like, I didn't expect that I would be shortlisted, because I was like, look, first of all, I found out about it last minute. Someone who's like a bit of a mentor shared it with me. And then I was just like, okay, cool, I'll apply. And then I was umming and ahhing because I was like, look, is there a point in putting all this time and effort into an application that like I might not even get? But I was like, cool, whatever, let me just do it. But yeah, being shortlisted for that was like random. And like I already said, like, even if I win or not, like I don't mind. Like being shortlisted was really cool. But I think it's like what you said, like it's encouraging people to like take a step, like leap of faith, and like just like put yourself out there, apply for stuff, and you never know like where it could go. Because yeah, like being, even like not winning, but being in that room was like incredible. I got to see so many people. It's also run by the same organization that does like UK Black Business Show or like Black Business Week in London and Birmingham. So like it was really cool to like meet, I guess, like people in that space who do that stuff. And yeah, it was like, I personally tell people like that was like a really cool time, and I had a really cool, like it was really cool to be in that space. But yeah, I think like, so the reason I brought that example was because like I feel like sometimes, like if I limited Pick Up the Mic to only being a podcast network and seeing that like, yeah, we can only apply for stuff that's related to like audio or like podcasting, stuff like that, then like I'm limiting myself to the opportunities that I can apply for and do. Yeah. And it's like seeing like your work is like bigger than that. So you might be a fashion brand, but maybe with your fashion brand, I don't know, you do a lot of like community work. So maybe you go to schools, you go to colleges, universities, you deliver talks, maybe you do workshops. And then it's like, no, you're more than just a fashion brand. You could even arguably say you're like a social impact organization. Or maybe, you run a creative agency and you feel like, oh, you can only apply for stuff for creative agencies. But maybe as a part of your creative agency, you say, actually, you know what, if someone's a small business, we do like pro bono work. So if they want advice on their marketing, if they want to be connected with like, up and coming talent that could maybe be a part of their like ads and stuff like that. Even if they're looking for like, macro, which is like smaller influencers that could maybe like promote their service or their product, like we'll put them in touch and maybe let them know that like, hey, these groups of people, they'll do it for you. They won't expect any payment from it, but they know they might look for other sort of like in-kind support. So maybe, you might share any work that they're doing, stuff like that. And it's like, okay, if you're then doing that, you're more than just a creative agency. You're a creative agency who's like focused on, community impact and like supporting up and coming like influencers and stuff like that. So I think it's sometimes about like not limiting yourself to specific streams of stuff. And that's why I say like with Pick Up the Mic, it's nice to have that like free-flowing description of what Pick Up the Mic is, because like sometimes, yes, people still think we only do podcasts, and I like say, no, actually we've got like a whole host of things that we do. But it's like, to me, it's just a reminder that like, yeah, like we do more than just creating podcast episodes. And while podcast episodes might be like the thing we started with or the thing that we're like got the most experience with, we do so much more than that. And it's just like reminding yourself of that from time to time.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're going to do like loads more as well in the years to come. So I guess, what are you most excited to build on then in the upcoming years?
Definitely the Fund and Flourish Lab. We will see, like hopefully this month it will start, if not next month. But definitely the Fund and Flourish Lab is something that I'm looking forward to starting. It's been good, especially from like people, I guess, who don't necessarily know a lot about Pick Up the Mic, or like aren't necessarily like haven't been a part of the journey for so long, to like when we told them about the idea, to see like, oh yeah, this is actually something really cool. This is interesting. We'd love to like learn more, like see how we could maybe support you and stuff like that. So for me personally, the Fund and Flourish Lab is definitely at the top. I think as well, definitely trying to do more like, obviously, like through the program that you on here, I was a mentor, so it was great to do some mentoring. Definitely want to do more mentoring in that aspect. I don't know how that's going to look, but definitely that's something that I would be interested in. And then the final thing is actually, funnily enough, another project that is currently on pause because I want to just get everything with the Fund and Flourish Lab like ready to go so it can launch. But I won't give, this is like, I did the same thing for the Fund and Flourish Lab last year, but like I won't give too much detail about it just yet. Or maybe I will and just cut it out. Maybe I will. So future Jeffrey, or like for anyone listening, this is going to be cut and then it will restart when it starts. But essentially, so we're working on this like long-term project, which is like a roadmap of essentially all these opportunities. So it's stuff like Upgrade Yourself. It's stuff like the Black Business Residency. It's stuff like Roundhouse Works. There's a co-working space in King's Cross called Fish Tank. Like it's basically getting all these like opportunities and then essentially developing like a long-term roadmap. So it starts off with, we've got a few different ideas how it could look. So the first idea is, it's like, okay, I'm 18 and I have a business idea. And it's like, maybe I'm at university, maybe I'm not. And then it's like, okay, so how can someone who is 18 sort of like develop a roadmap of like all these different support services, and they'll like go through all of them. And then by the time that they're 30, because that's when a lot of these programs end, it's like this person is like either started their business is running and bringing in revenue, or they're at a stage where like they're very confident in their business idea rather than like the 18 version of them. Because basically, I think through both my work, but also through like being a part of spaces like for 18 to 30-year-olds, it's like there's a lot of programs that support each other, but they never really like overlap their work. They're very much just like, oh yeah, this is what our business does and this is what we do. And it's like, cool. But then we were just like, well, why isn't it that like there is a clear roadmap? So maybe it's like, okay, so this person's let's say they go to university, 18 to 30, they might get involved in their university's like entrepreneur program and do stuff for them. Maybe they get funding through their university for their business. And then maybe, let's say by the time they're 21, they've set up their business, it's registered on Companies House, maybe they got some funding to develop or do research, and then it's like, cool, once they're 21, where do they go now? Now, if they're in the creative industries and they're looking for space to go, maybe they'll go to Roundhouse Works, because they'll get they'll essentially get access to a co-working space for a year. Okay, cool, then they'll finish at Roundhouse Work at 22. Maybe they go to Fish Tank, because again, they're open for a year. So maybe at 23, they're now like, okay, where do I go? And then we might be like, well, actually, have you thought about going to the Somerset House Exchange? Because you could maybe be a part of either the BBR program or the bursary program here. So it's almost like creating this like detailed roadmap of like stopping points that like, I guess whether they're creatives or even like just founders as a whole or just young people, like all these support services that offer like, whether it's like a dedicated program, whether it's just like workshops they do yearly. And then the plan is with this roadmap, it's like even to detail it with like funding opportunities in there. So there's some funding opportunities, like there's one called D-Base, happens every year. And it's like, okay, cool. So how can we do it that we can almost like say, and D-Base isn't one that's limited by age. So it's almost like, how can we say, okay, well, this person by the time maybe they're 30 or I don't know, once they finish with all these programs, will be like, oh yeah, I can actually apply for funding and know that I can get it if I need it. Or how can we say like, oh, actually, you know, through these programs, they now have developed like a solid sales strategy. So then maybe they can just go straight to reaching out to businesses and getting work. So yeah, I'll cut all of that out. But yeah, now that you're back, yeah, so the project will be really cool. But it's one of those things where like it's a big research project. So we have to like, one, look at like different programs across the UK, specifically focusing on London just to begin with, but like across London, and that also looks at like looking into, like I said, like different versions of how that project could look. But yeah, no, that probably those would be the three things that I'm like very much excited to be working on in the next like year or two.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, thank you.
Sounds really, really cool.
Thank you.
And that's actually all the questions I
Okay.
have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I guess I have a question for you, even though I'm going to flip this to you. Okay. As someone who is about to venture into entrepreneurship, what is one thing you're excited about? Or if you want to do three, because I'm the worst with doing one thing, but what's some things that you're excited about with putting on the entrepreneur hat?
I guess for me, I'm kind of excited to just help people, or like, at least I think I can, and I hope I do. But I'm just excited to, see how it affects people and see people come together and, just help people, I guess, through my own experience. And because we're planning to have events in person, also do a podcast, hopefully, as well. And maybe also a magazine down the line. So yeah, I'm kind of really excited to like collaborate with people and like bring people together and really see the impact of that, I guess. But yeah, it's gonna be very new for me, so yeah, I'm excited to see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, and I'd say it's like, even though as we discussed, there's challenges, it's always a fun journey. And yeah, I'd say the biggest thing is just enjoy it. Because you'll be literally, as we discussed, like it's already year 4 for Pick Up the Mic, which means I now have to figure out what I'm doing next year for our celebration, because 5 years is big. But yeah, it's honestly like it's something that like time will especially if it's something that you enjoy, you'll just find that like even when it does get tough, you'll be like, I still enjoy what I do. Yeah, that's definitely what I aim to have. We'll see if I enjoy it as much, but I hope I do. I'm sure you will. Essentially that's it. Thank you to everyone for coming back to another episode of the Hustle Chronicles. If you like this episode, like, comment, subscribe, always appreciated. If you want to make sure that you don't miss any more episodes of the Hustle Chronicles or any of the other content on the Pick Up the Mic YouTube channel, please make sure you click the notification bell on the video. If you would like to support the work that we do, see some cool merch, or just help us in our journey, then please do check out either our YouTube channel membership or our Patreon membership, which is down below, and you can go to both of those pages and find about the cool stuff that you can get through that. And then finally, if you want to know about our other content that we've got, as I always say, we have our anime channel, our gaming channel, and our sci-fi and fantasy channel. You can head to the For You page. If you scroll down, you'll see all 3 of these additional YouTube channels there. Make sure you subscribe to them, hit the notification bell there so you don't miss any of their episodes. And yeah, just can continue supporting. But yeah, it's been great coming back a year later. Thank you, Demelza, for all the wonderful questions.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's been great. Sorry, I realised because we swapped roles. How could, if people want to keep an eye on your journey, learn more about the business later down the line, how can people connect with you?
Oh yeah, follow me on Instagram at DEMELZIAIA. That Demelza. Yeah, it's a weird name, but yeah. And the venture, I'm yet to decide on a name. So yeah, just stay tuned on my Instagram for now.
Well, cool. But yeah, that's it. We're gonna wrap up the episode there. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you in the next episode of Hustle Chronicles. So that's bye for us. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Cool. Thank you very much. How did you find it?